Chapter 4. More doubts. Did not go. Better wait for Elle's arrival. She wrote a short note that she will be arriving on the 29th. The conference was delayed, and then she has to go to Delhi before coming here. I had better not go at all until she is here. What's the use? And still somehow I feel that he can take me there, where love is in stillness, and the mind is not. 25th October, 1961. Looking after Pushpa's garden, rearranging flowers, planting, watering, being frantically active. Better not to think. Work and work, just that. Such a disappointment, the whole affair. We went with Pushpa to the nursery twice and got lovely crotons, orange trees, and cactuses. Planting, and planting. The flat roof will be a desert garden. All the cactuses and shrubs, which do not need much water and can stand a great amount of heat, were carried upstairs. The servants don't like me. I make them work. The rubbish has been cleared away by the gardener with the cooperation of the coolie. Suggested to Pushpa to have parties on the roof. She seemed to like the idea. Frantic with activity, not to think, at any cost. So much had I hoped. How hot and deep is the disappointment. Oh, please, my mind, stop thinking. On my last day before I had left Amritsar, I remember the tourist guide book took me in the morning to see an historical Gurdwara, temple of the Sikh religion, dedicated to the 12 Sikh martyrs slaughtered by the Muslims. We came in when the prayers were already in progress, seated ourselves on the dari, thick cotton carpet, amongst the worshippers, and waited till the order of the day was written out on the blackboard. The guide translated it from Punjabi. Is there somebody who can take me to the Lord? I will go to him, touch his feet, and kiss his hands, and serve him faithfully, him who can take me to the Lord. There are moments in life when we become aware, as if in a flash, that the finger of destiny is catching up with us. This was such a moment. I remember clearly I suddenly felt cold, became afraid, and did not know why. It was just that I know now. The finger of destiny touched my heart. I knew this message was for me. I will not go to him. A sudden panic flashed through my mind. I will go to Ceylon as originally intended and then return to England, to my work at the TS library. But I chased this thought away. My heart was full of hope. I thought, it must be a good omen those words of the order of the day were meant for me, for I was going to someone who, I felt sure, could help me on the road to truth. Of course, we all know that we have to do our work ourselves. He will be able only to point out the way, create the right spiritual conditions to make the work easier for us, but to get there, we must do it ourselves. The toil we have to do alone. There is a kind of power at his place. It is a fact, I'm quite sure, not just imagination. Very disturbing. I keep away, waiting for Elle. She must help me to clear some points. And if she cannot, then I will go to Madras, have a look at South India and Ceylon, and then forget the whole affair. If I can. But it will not be so easy, if at all possible. Only at the idea of going away, something in me keeps crying. It is so deep that I hardly am conscious of it. It is just on the threshold of comprehension. It is like a homesickness, a great yearning. Homesickness for our real home, for the home of all of us, human beings, and the home of everything else as well in the universe. Oh, you who know all hearts, help me to sort it out. Help me to see the right road. I am like one who is wounded, so sore, and a small voice within keeps crying all the time. Such a restless state. So I work and work and work and wait for Elle. Transplanted 46 pots yesterday, and they were large. Hard work. Must get some sticks, preferably bamboo sticks, and some netting for the creepers. There must be, the road to the real home. And because I cannot trust him, the only person who can help me, I cannot take it. For a little light, I pray, a little spark of light, just to see the right direction, the next step. The heart keeps beating very fast, as if in fever, very often missing out beats. And when this happens, a kind of suffocation is felt in the throat. I stopped drinking tea since Pahalgam, when this condition began. It coincided with Elle's arrival at my tent. It makes me wonder now, but now it is gradually getting much worse. Palpitations and pain in the heart, and a kind of pressure, as if of a stone. 26 October. Waiting for Elle. 27th October. Waiting for Elle and working in the garden as hard as ever. How lovely are the sunrises seen from the roof. The pink, ethereal sunrises of the Indian plains, and full of peace, the sunsets in the haze of the heat. How lovely you are, India, even here, where the skyline on the far horizon looks like the skyline of London's East End. Smoking, tall factory chimneys just peeping out behind the trees of the park. 28th October. Woke up in the middle of the night. Have restless nights lately, crammed with confused dreams. Woke up with a sentence resounding in my ears and seemed still to hear it while waking up. There is no other way at all to go. The Upanishad flashed through my mind while waking up completely. Which Upanishad? Could not remember. It seemed unimportant. No other way. Only this was important. It was as if somebody else was thinking it, not me. Felt tired, so tired. No other way for me. And the idea of leaving, of having to go from here all of a sudden like a shock, filled me with an unspeakable terror. A victim must feel like this before being killed, the finality of it. Then I knew to my profound dismay that I could not go, will never be able to go. And it had absolute finality, like the very act of dying. 30th October. Elle came on Saturday in the morning. I was on the roof in my gardening pajamas working with liquid cow dung. Had a long talk with her after her bath and several more discussions since then. She did not prove to be of much help. She could not understand why I was so afraid to lose all my money. Apparently he refuses money. Elle saw him doing so. He accepts money, but to give it away. This is also true. But why on earth do you assume that he will force you? Because I feel that he has some kind of terrible power. It disturbs me. It does not seem human. I feel that he can do anything with me, anything at all, that I am completely helpless in his hand. And more so because I have discovered that the very thought of going away fills me with a kind of desperation for which I have no rational explanation. She gave me a strange look and suggested that it might be a test, for it seemed to her that money represents such an important factor in my life. But I dismissed this explanation as not at all convincing, or not one that I could easily accept. Told her how disappointed I was. I even cried. Did hope that she would ask him for an explanation as to what happens to my mind, and what about the heart condition. Actually, I asked her to do so, but not in front of everybody, perhaps when she is alone with him and there are no interruptions. But apparently she asked him as soon as somebody had left, in the brief interval before somebody else arrived, so they were interrupted. All that he had said, she told me, was that I am suffering from a too restless mind and fearful imagination. But, she added, she quite understood my state of mind, the state of doubt and disturbance. Perhaps in my place she would feel the same. I could see that she was distressed and felt sorry for me. She was a friend, but could I trust her? I have a sneaking suspicion that she had a talk with him, but got instructions not to tell me the result. One of her remarks made me think so. When I told her that it seems impossible to have trust and confidence in him, she answered in her simple, serious way that at the beginning it is not so necessary to have implicit faith and confidence. It is necessary later. But in the meantime there will be proofs of many happenings. I will discover many things, and then may have the confidence. Stay for a while, she said, and see what happens. At the beginning it is not necessary. Could that mean there would be or could be a continuation? Even an end someday? I gave up, could not think, seemed too great an effort. Pushpa's husband has the flu, so we did not go to the Gita class. Elle took some poems in Urdu to Baisab from the little Parveen, the charming and delicate girl I had met at Kamla's house in Srinagar. These devotional poems were supposed to be lovely, so I hoped to hear the translation, at least some of them. I was telling myself that this was the only reason why I wanted to go. But of course the real reason was that I wanted to be in his atmosphere again. I missed it so much. 10 days had elapsed. It was such a long time. The stupid Shastri was already sitting there. I had time to warn Elle what a fool he was and a vain one, into the bargain. And true enough, Bhai Sahib soon asked him to show off his knowledge and chant some verses from the Vedas. He chanted little and explained much in Sanskrit and bad English, clearly for our benefit. And Elle said afterwards that it had no sense whatsoever, neither his Sanskrit nor his English comment. I got so impatient with this fool, his screechy voice, like a parrot's, jarred on my nerves, that I went out into the garden for a little while to take some fresh air. It was cool, the sky was cloudy, the wind blew in my face. I was walking up and down under the trees, breathing deeply. The garden was still, nobody was about. When the Shastri had left, there was much amusement about his self-importance, and Elle was commenting on the nest of the bull. The passage she asked Acharya to explain, but he could not. I became aware of a great disturbance in the heart. It positively kept stopping, and each time I had a feeling of suffocation. It became very tiresome. In Palagam, after meeting Elle, it began. I came back with renewed force, but this time it was different. It most certainly had to do with Bhai Sahib's presence, or perhaps only with his place. At this moment he was talking to his wife, who came in and stood at the door. I took the opportunity to ask Elle if I could ask him what to do about the heart activity. Of course, she said, I should ask him. I did as soon as his wife had left. He said that there is a physical heart and a non-physical one, and when the latter is activated, the former is bound to feel it. Nothing will happen to you, he smiled. Don't fear, no harm at all. I am here to see to that. The conversation was still turning around Sastri Acharya and his chanting. After a while, Baisab turned to me and asked, Now you have no disturbance at all, is it so? I realized to my astonishment that my heart was quite all right. It is because I have it now, he smiled kindly. Oh no, I exclaimed. Give it back to me again, please. I don't want you to have it. It would be unfair to you. Am I a juggler? He smiled, his still quiet smile, to let it go backward and forward. He really was laughing now, obviously amused, but I asked him seriously to give it back to me again. I challenge you to do it. I want to see if you can do it. I want to believe that you have the power to do so. Give it back to her doubly, Elle exclaimed. It will serve her right. Conversation was resumed once more about the Vedas and the nest of the bull, the passage Elle was so baffled about. Then silence fell. When I happened to look at the Guru, he was far away. Look, oh look at him, I whispered to Elle. Do look at this expression on his face, like carved stone, antique and cruel. It looked as old as humanity. All of a sudden, I got the heart trouble again, and not only that, but giddiness and headache as well. But I told Elle that I still did not believe that it was he who could do it. Perhaps it was just a coincidence that it ceased and came back once more. She looked disgusted and said that I was much worse than the doubting Thomas, and being unnecessarily difficult and so on. Sitting in his customary cross-legged position, Bhai Sahib was rocking himself gently. He was in samadhi. Watching him, I was telling Elle in French that his face was so Oriental, Chinese, or Tibetan, a face one seemed to have always known. "Do you know how you look when in samadhi?" I asked him, when he looked up, after a while opening his eyes. "Tibetan, yes, Tibetan, and as old as the hills." "Tibetan?" He repeated it slowly. His voice was strange, monotonous, and looking straight at me. "Tibetan. If you know it, why do you still doubt?" It took my breath away. I knew what he meant, and silently I bowed to him with joined palms. After that, Elle and I left for lunch.